Hello, my name is Moon. I'm PhD student in Kingston University. Today's presentation titled Fragments of Diary, Diaristic Practice in Moving Images, Time and Space. I studied communication design in China, Japan, and the UK. Through this experience, I gradually became attracted to Deleuze's concept of diagram in relation to the communicational expression in moving image practice. Therefore, this presentation explores three critical aspects of moving image practice through the lens of Deleuze's diagram: the poetic gesture, the diaristic practice, and the poetic and emotional interactive space that can be conceptualized in the atmosphere. This method highlights a methodological approach to understanding the aesthetic relationship between the artist, viewer, and material expression by placing the artist and viewer as active participants in the creative process. I remember a friend of mine once asked me,
If someone does not want to expose or publish their diary to the outside, what is the reason do they keeping their diary? The practice of a diary can be useless if there is a possibility of that diary being deposed one day without being noticed or not even finished in their lifetime.
I asked, if someone does not want or cannot their voice and thought to be heard or seen by somebody else, does that act or work lose its energy of expression and meaning? The experience of film goes beyond sensory entertainment, extending to creating a unique sensational environmental experience. It also highlights the importance of the relationship between the filmmaker, artist, and the viewer in conceiving their interaction and communication. Current moving image practice moves parallel with narrative cinema, which is confined to fixed perspectives and dark rooms in the conventional film, an interactive or expanded cinema that strengthens direct bodily experience and frees from narrative linearity, exemplified by works such as Chris Marker's CD-ROM in Memory, 1997, and David Slade's Black Mirror, Bandersnatch, 2018. This new technological approach offers the experience of the flaneur in time or space via mouse control and link selection, which raises a question of the bodily and emotional interaction between the artist, viewer, and artistic material without limiting the viewer to a narrow understanding of audiences or consumers. Reflecting Jonas Mekas explores the idea of diaristic moving image practice concerning its materiality and dailiness that create an emotional and sensational space based on the concept of atmosphere. Mekas was an experimental filmmaker and critic, but more significantly, he was a poet throughout his life. Mekas had forceful displacement from his hometown due to both the Soviet and Nazi occupation of Lithuania. When he moved to New York in late 1949, a young poet and writer brought his first 16 Bolex film camera and began to record life in Brooklyn. However, what he depicted was not actual New York but virtual one. If you see my diaries, you see all those seasons: winters, snow, snow, a lot of snow. What is this? How much snow does New York really have? But my New York is full of snow. How come? Because I grew up with the snow. So it's a fantasy. I am a romantic, you see. And you are. Bolex is a light and small camera compared to the traditional cinematic camera in Mecca's time, which offered a topographical change in the relationship between the camera and the artist's active engagement in dynamic disruption and the body that operates it, which is closer to the recent action camera attached to the human body and the hand than eyes. Then, the artist and their bodily interaction become a question concerning the concept of author. As Roland Barthes notes that the author is born simultaneously and does not precede the text. Barthes questions the subjectivity in the distinction between the narrator I and I as the one that is narrated as an acted I. He argues the subject of speech act can never be the same as the one who acted yesterday. In other words, recording and performing mechas is not the same as editor mechas, which is editing the film and rewatching the archive. The editor I, liberated from the acting body in the frame, from a recurrentable production of complete code as a stable sign represented by the filming act, and becomes another I, which I would like to call the first spectator. Mechas explore the disorientation of place and multidimensional inner sense in the forms of creative poetic thinking. This shifting position of the subject and the object engages with the poetic essence of the experience and the displacement of the personal reality. Mechas insists that he is not illustrating his memory, but the reaction of seeing, because he believes that there is no memory or time. But all the video cassettes and film reels, they are all materials. They are not memories to me. They are working materials, and I work with them. Compared to the reactional and interactive recording process, the post editing is more a matter of eliminating what didn't work from clips that are stored in his personal archive. Mecha's camera movement integrates the artist's bodily gesture in the machine into a new expression that can be explained as a reactive movement. Post-editing adds editor eye's gesture that announces new layers of time and space on the surface of the moving image, which gives random and accidental marks by the gesture of hands to the event.
Of you. It has to be all outside of your control. Decisions are unconscious. If you would begin to make conscious decisions, you would stop. You couldn't do. There is no thinking and there is no planning. There is no creativity. There is just doing the right thing the way you feel.
The random gesture in the camera follows his own attention in different films, smudging, blurring, or drawing out sensational images and reminiscences of the archive. D. N. Rodowik points out that the moving image and painting face the same question of how to extract a figural image by moving beyond figurative reproduction and narration that turns figures into figurability, a diagram. These variations are not wholly random. Instead, they are contingent actions shaped by a compositional idea or diagram that challenges that cliché and questions how to produce resemblance through non-imitative or reproductive means. Where is the middle of reaction and gesture that are oscillating with each other? My diary project aims to expand his diaristic practice to a question of how to create a sensation of dailiness by collecting and editing recordings of events, feelings, or thoughts that occur as a diaristic practice with a threefold experiment of reaction, reflection, and drawing of diagram, recording, uploading video clips online, and editing into moving image works. The history of the documentation suggests that the form and function of diaries change depending on cultural, social, and political differences, and each creates a unique way of writing in both private and public affairs that cannot be defined in a specific structure, form, or purpose that can be called a genre. In the 21st century, the meaning of the diary continued to be both in the romantic and positivist sense, such as in social media, self-tracking with wearable devices, and various blogging platforms concerning a better self or representation of self. However, my project focuses less on the self but on the dailiness, that how I experience the atmosphere of dailiness in two different ways, on scrolling clips on a website and in a linear and structured experimental film. What does it mean in terms of self-practice that is puzzling and fragmentary story and resists being a grain of sand in the context of a historical but personal archive? In Mecca's 365-day project, 2007, his body lip gesture and recording and archiving expands to the website and creates a newly forming experience at that time without post-production. He shared everyday videos by uploading them on the same day. Therefore, viewers could follow his life as if reading a written diary. In this method, act I or recorded I in the frame of video parallel to the author I, who is uploading the video, or an artist as a homogeneous subject I, simultaneously multiplies to reading I or viewers. This diaristic practice requires meditation in the most private and secret inner thought as writing a diary, which contains the desire and wishes to deliver or express fragments of life, whether to self, to somebody, or to nobody. Unlike a physical diary that reflects on paper at the end of the day, the diaristic moving image reacts spontaneously to events, environments, or imageries, which is crucial to keep the device to use every day in immediate situations. Therefore, I use small and handy digital devices such as a GoPro, iPhone, and mirrorless camera that can be attached to my body and can record events or surroundings maximum few hours, saving unexpected sound or noise from the off frame and different ratios unless I needed to make it clear with a larger size. Embracing all the contingency, I developed a collecting method using separate folders in calendar-based numbers with the keywords from 2022, the shortest few seconds to the longest few hours. Each folder's name with date number performs as an entry, and keywords are used to identify events and sources as writing a diary on the note. Both information of date and keywords are excised from the final version of the experiment to deliver a certain sensation of a whole, apart from the source. On the other hand, my website presents videos without exposing the context of who was there or what types of events. Attempts take out the context of the subject to increase the possibility of expansion to the general sensation of dailiness. Therefore, each video frame can be reconnected to create a rhythm of different lengths, speeds, and angles with instinct decisions on site that focus on events and moments of life instead of fixed structure of time. As Franz Kafka's diaries contains various forms of raw writing, including drafts of novels, documentations, and reflections, my experiments incorporate daily recordings, video haiku, and drafts of experimental works with a spontaneous, provisional, and unpolished aspect of daily life. Each frame is connected to the neighboring frame due to the minimum margin of boundaries, expressing the whole page as an atmosphere of moments of life, which is a realization of an instant of I am here. The website experiment applies scrolling interaction to create an individual rhythm by the user's decision, which is familiar in social media such as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, in a consistent structure of each content with color, size, and design. This format design offers new types of entry and identity of each social media. However, the composition of the video or image depends on whether creating a video is meant to be watched from start to finish in one sitting, or, as in the gallery space, present a video that can watch for some moment and come back later. Unlike the smartphone environment, the moving image in the gallery space creates different types of rhythm with the viewer's own body, an embellishment by directly interacting with its atmosphere. My last experiment with the diary project engages with the various modulations of each video clip and physical space, questioning how that spatial sensation can be connected in the affecting body generated by the artist or filmmaker's interaction with the materials. I designed square frame bombs and placed two contradictory or parallel images in each frame in the box shape, followed by how image movement, color, sounds are interconnected. In the second version, two extra boxes around the image continuously move and flash around image frames reflecting toward the inner surface of the outside of the box, without aiming for precisely measuring and calculating the position of objects in each frame. It embodies subjective and aesthetic phenomena in the situation of being spatialized, corporeal, in social and symbolic multimodal modes of communication. Therefore, it opens new possibilities in the moving image practice concerning the creating and viewing process, that is, modulations of atmospheric interaction, which can be both direct bodily interaction with the artwork and spatial expansion outside of the frame. In her book Atmospheres of Projection, Juliana Bruno developed a concept of atmosphere concerning aesthetic in the projective practice, specialized and multi-layered fluctuation by tracing the connection between projection artwork, viewer, and architectural space. As in the architectural imagination of cartography, the projection is not flat or cubic but without a fixed form. For her, there is no perfect flatness in moving image projection because components of three-dimensional bodies are presented in the sense projection of spectators even if they become elements of the surface composition only through being projected on a plane. The act of projection creates a space for various encounters to occur. It mediates a relationship between people and objects in forms of mixing in intersections that affect their very boundaries. This atmospheric space, Tonino Grifero notes by quoting Dario Galati in Atmosphere 2014, is something out there, something in the air, with airy and hovering qualities of effect. That is to say, they possess the capacity not only to create but to pervasively transmit transformative states of matter as supersubjective and superobjective feelings that are poured out in the space. Perceiving atmospheric effect should be within and involve the situation as being in the world. In this sense, my last experiment in diary project aims to develop the idea of atmospheric practice in the tangible frame that captures fragments of dailiness in a sudden realization by light, wind, sound, smell, or change of scene from home or midway walking through the pedestrian, unexpected atmospheric change that triggers to take a photograph or video as we experience a daily life without narration or information of any kind. These images no longer depict a single day of a particular person anymore. Instead, they are montage space as a way of showing the various modulations of atmosphere, the dailiness. It is my hope that this paper inspires further exploration on the nature of interactivity in experimental moving image and the relationship between the artist, viewer, and materials, and beyond the aesthetic sphere to a deeper understanding of emotional interactions that contributes to a more nuanced understanding of aesthetic and the human experience. Thank you for watching my presentation. I hope you have a lovely day.